a sweet shock like the cool plunge of the bay in the heat of summer. After that, Mere slept and woke with Iraia under her skin. She lived for the moments they brushed fingertips or exchanged long glances that left her cheeks hot. Now when she searched the night sky, she thought only of Iraia's eyes seeking the same constellations as hers. It would be only a matter of time before someone found out. A choice would have to be made. As she lay on the mats in the hut beside her aunt, the reality of that choice was stark. She would do anything to have Rai. What she'd said to her aunt was true. She didn't know how she could live without him, so the choice was easy. A choice between breathing and not breathing. When it was not yet dawn, Mere rushed to where Iraia slept in a makeshift shelter. He already had a kite with food by his door. "Mere, I have to go. What if Whaiori tells your father?" "She said she won't." "But we have to go." "No, you have to stay. I cannot protect you, Mere. What if they come after me?" "Then I will protect you." "You're a stubborn, headstrong girl, Mere Irihapiti." "I know. But I won't let you go without me. You know I won't." They stared at each other for a long moment. Mere crossed her arms. They went to the beach, pulled the smallest boat down to the water and pushed themselves away from the shore. It was eerie quiet, just the sound of the oars slicing in and out of the water. Mere wanted to be with Rai so fiercely it burnt everything else away. She felt sick with fear, but not at all uncertain about her choice. She checked the kite. There was some meat, smoked eel, fruit, a gourd for water. Then she realised. Her mother's rewena. She hadn't remembered the one thing it would hurt to leave. Her mother's jar. The only thing she'd loved as fiercely as Iraia. Her mother's memory. She looked up at Iraia. Her tane, her chosen. There was nothing for it now. She could not go back.
Lula followed the path most taken. 4 years at university, that should have been 3. Drinking more than was advisable, several short-lived affairs, an arts degree that qualified her for nothing in particular. She didn't see much of Biggs, who remained steadfastly attached to Jen and to finishing his studies in the South Island. Later, if asked about her parents at this time in her life, Leela would have remembered little. It was the impulse of her age to spend hours figuring out who she was and what she was to get from the world. She followed her nose and her peers overseas. London seemed full of energy and potential and bright substance. She found a boyfriend with an accent she never got used to. They went to work, they went to clubs or pubs, came back to the flat, fell into bed and tangled with each other. One morning she woke to her customary dry throat and found the night before, all the nights before, had lost their grimy glamour. Reese, the boyfriend, would not wake for hours. What was she doing, she wondered? What should she even do with this one day? Perhaps play the tourist for a while, wander somewhere she hadn't been, think about things outside of the small world she had made for herself. At the British Museum, she moved from room to room. One room in particular seemed to have a mixture of items. A changing exhibition, it was called. Pieces in transition. In a far corner, a figure caught her eye. Once she'd seen the rebrowned carved man, she couldn't seem to concentrate on other pieces. "What are you doing here?" she found herself saying aloud. Then she reached out a hand and placed it on his head. She returned her hand to her side and felt it still there. The urge to make contact. Something was caught in her throat. A denseness began to build in her chest. He was squat, carved to hold up a central post of a house, but fine-featured. His head was naturalistic, almost life-size. He would have been a beautiful man. Eyes still reflected fire from their power blue pupils. He had a fine, swirling moko, a well-oiled topknot. Lula couldn't remember seeing such a regal example of carving before. The figure looked sad. His head inclined downwards rather than straight ahead. Usually they were defiant, challenging. The small sign beside him said, "Carved male Māori figure, mid-19th century AD from New Zealand, Polynesia." It didn't say where he came from or who his people were. Lula knew there was something wrong with this, but didn't know why she knew. The denseness in her chest carried a sorrow she didn't recognise as her own. On the tube home, her thoughts meandered back to the carved ancestor, and it felt like an ache she couldn't reach. It had been so long since she'd felt anything. Reese was having his breakfast when she got back. "What you been up to, Lou?" he said. She thought about trying to explain her day, but the ache wasn't something she was ready to give away in words. A month later, Lula was on a flight home. She spent 3 weeks at her parents'. They were smaller than she remembered. It alarmed her that her father drank more, that her mother continued to inhale $20 worth of cigarettes each week. She'd been home a week before she figured out something else was going on. She heard footsteps in the early hours, hushed voices, and something akin to gasping. She found her mother hunched unnaturally over the kitchen table, doing something that looked horribly like panting. Her mother grabbed her arm, and Lula held her. Gradually, Tui's breathing calmed. She was pale. "I just get short of breath every so often. A bit of angina, the doc says. It's a heart thing. You know, the diabetes." Lula hadn't paid much attention when her mother mentioned diabetes a few years back. "You know you shouldn't be smoking, Mum." "Yes, well, there are a lot of things I shouldn't have done. Smoking's one of them." When Lula tried to raise the subject of her mother's health, Tui used the same well-rehearsed avoidance strategies she'd employed when 7-year-old Lula had tried to ask about their family's heritage.
We'll catch up with Imi, Lula, and Miri and Iraia tomorrow as we continue our story, Tina Makareti's novel Where the Rekuhō Sings. It is a minute and a half away from RNZ News. We are standing by to go live to Parliament. During the news, the Prime Minister is holding what was an unscheduled media conference around 11 o'clock this morning. It's expected that Jacinda Ardern will be addressing an allegation against a Labour Party minister. RNZ understands that minister is Ian Lees-Galloway. In fact, there is speculation that he has resigned this morning. This all emerged after the National Party leader Judith Collins revealed in her morning media interviews this morning, including on RNZ, that she had received an allegation against a Labour minister. This, of course, after her own backbench MP, Andrew Falloon, resigned yesterday after now 4 women had come forward with allegations that he had sent them inappropriate images. So as a result, I guess, there has been further information coming forward past the Prime Minister's office, and we will find out, hopefully just in a few seconds' time, whether in fact Mr Lees-Galloway is the person involved and has resigned. Analysis also from our political team after that. And we'll be into music following Graham Downs, Deep Purple on his mind. You're listening to 9 to Noon on RNZ National.
Kia ora koutou and good morning. This morning I am announcing that I have dismissed Minister Ian Lees-Galloway as a minister. Yesterday afternoon, the Leader of the Opposition advised me of an email she had received that related to Ian Lees-Galloway. She conveyed to me that she had asked the individual who had written to her to relay anything directly to my office. No other details were provided to me. My Chief of Staff subsequently contacted the Leader of the Opposition's office to pass on contact information, should that be required by the correspondent. At around 3 p.m, my office received an email directly from a third party alleging that the Minister had an inappropriate relationship with a former staffer who worked in one of his agencies. This was the first time that I had heard such allegations. At around 5:45 p.m. last night, I sat down with the Minister and put a range of questions and allegations to him. He confirmed that a consensual relationship had occurred, that it involved someone who had previously worked in his office and had been based in one of his agencies. I want to be clear up front. I wish to protect the identity of the person, so will avoid providing any details over and above those necessary to explain my decision that may reveal who they are. I request that the media and other politicians respect this. Over the course of the conversation with the Minister, it became clear to me that his position as a minister was untenable. I advised him of that at that time. The Minister has shown a lack of judgment over a period of 12 months. In undertaking this relationship, he has opened himself up to accusations of improperly using his office. He has not modelled the behaviour I expect as a minister that is in charge of setting a standard at culture as Minister for Workplace Relations and Safety. His actions have ultimately led me to lose my confidence in him as a minister. The Minister takes full responsibility for his actions. He fully accepts my decision. He has also decided not to stand at the next election. Carmel Sepuloni will become the Minister for ACC. Andrew Little will become the Minister for Workplace Relations and Safety. And Chris Farfoy will become the Minister for Immigration. All of these portfolio allocations will take us through to the election, at which point, of course, all portfolios are reconsidered. My final comment is this. Politics is a place where we need to maintain standards, and politicians should pay the price for mistakes. Their families should not. I do ask that we try and maintain that clear distinction here. I'm happy to take questions.
Minister, is it the power imbalance?
Jane.
Is this a current situation or is this
No.
historic?
No, this relationship has ceased prior to these allegations being raised with the Minister.
Can you give us a bit of a time frame in terms of, you said it was a 12-month relationship, but how long ago?
I believe it ended several months ago.
Is it the power imbalance, Prime
Barry?
Minister? Is it the power imbalance that you're
I've
concerned about, rather than just the affair?
I've taken into account a range of circumstances in this decision. One very compelling circumstance for me is that this is the Minister for Workplace Relations and Safety. I expect behaviour to be modelled here that is appropriate. Obviously, we're talking about a minister and someone that worked within one of the minister's agencies. This is one of many factors I have considered here that have led me to this decision.
You said that you needed to dismiss him. Is that because he wouldn't resign, or why?
No, that is the. I need to, of course, inform the Governor General. Then she removes his warrant as a minister. When I discussed these matters with the minister absolutely agreed his position was untenable. There was no question in his mind that he would maintain his portfolio. So I would not wish to leave a suggestion here that the minister does not accept his circumstances. He does.
Was he being called into your office to tell you, and also does he have to break this news to his family as well?
I will let some of the personal circumstances for the minister remain his personal circumstances. But after our conversation, I did make sure that the minister had leave from Parliament to return to be with his family. That is also behind some of the sequencing of this time frame for announcing this decision. Whilst I discussed with him at that time that his position as a minister was untenable, I did wish for him to be able to go and be with his family and spend some time with his family over the course of the evening before making this announcement this morning.
You said that you weren't aware of the details of this until now. Are you aware that there were rumours about this going on?
I had not been. Obviously, I am aware of that now.
You're aware of the rumours that were being...
No, I had not been. No, I was not aware of those rumours and allegations. However, I would also share the caution here, and many of you will know, working in this place, often rumours and allegations will circulate, many of which will not be true. In this case, I was not familiar with these ones. These were the first time I had put them to the minister.
Would you have expected Ian Lees-Galloway to have come forward with this to you rather than you having to seek out this information?
Given the nature of, as I've set out, the sustained period, the issue that this could have led to accusations of him inappropriately using his office, given his role as a Minister of Workplace Relations and Safety. There are circumstances here that I think reach a threshold that require the actions I've taken today. Yes, this, and therefore is something that I would have wished the Minister to have shared with me.
And what about the woman involved in this? Is she okay, and will you be reaching out to her to ensure that she has the support that she needs, given that this
that would be my hope, that those who are familiar with the circumstances will reach out in that way. I again want to be cautious about too much detail that I provide, but the employment relationship is different now than it was at the time. And so I'll leave it at that. We will take them one at a time. I will come to you.
Did the email come from the woman herself?
No. As I've said, it came from a third party. There's no suggestion to me that there's been anything to instigate this being raised by the person themselves.
Was it a staffer or a politician?
No. I'm not familiar with the person who's raised these allegations, and for me that is immaterial. Of course, it would be material if it was directly the person involved. It has not been. It is a third party.
And what if Judith Collins' handling of this?
I'll come over here and then I'll come back.
Did the tip you received, did it allege that there was an abuse of power?
Again, it made a range of allegations. I ultimately need to make my own judgment regardless of anyone else's judgment. I've set out for you why I believe that the Minister is in a position where, as Minister for Workplace Relations and Safety, an ongoing lack of judgment over a long period of time where it's just untenable for this for his status to remain as a minister.
What are the allegations that they made?
Again, I've set out the primary feature here, someone that has worked to the minister, who has been in one of his agencies, has had a relationship with the minister that I consider entirely inappropriate under those circumstances for a sustained period of time. And over that sustained period of time has displayed a significant lack of judgment.
Did the third party say that they were passing this on behalf of the person, or did they have a relationship with the person?
No, it was very clear to me that this was being done without their knowledge. Yeah.
What did you make of Judith? Prime Minister, what did you make of
I will come back to you, Tova. I just want to make sure everyone has a first go.
If you were not the Workplace and Safety Minister, would you have taken it?
And look, I don't want to get into too many hypotheticals here. I've tried to set out that there have been a range of circumstances here that have led me to this decision. A very compelling one for me is the ethical standards required to be set by a minister around a workplace and the culture that is established in a workplace and the relationships that exist in a workplace. So that is a feature of this decision here, and here's the Minister for Workplace Relations.
Why is it tenable that he remain in Parliament? He will still have staff.
He's made the decision that he will not be standing again. My view is he's reached the threshold for not being a minister. Ultimately, though, I did leave it to his own decision as to whether or not he ran again as a member of Parliament, and he has concluded that he will not.
being a member of your caucus until September 19th?
Until such time as he ceases his role as a Member of Parliament in September, yes. So I've made the decision about his role and my confidence in him as a minister. I'll come back to you, Tova.
Thanks, Prime Minister. What do you make of Judith Collins' handling of this, and do you think that there was a degree of politics being played in the way that this information has been presented to you?
My view is that we each have our own ability to handle information that is provided to us in our own way. You'll see that there are clear differences in the way that that I chose to deal with the information I received and that she has chosen to deal with the information she's received. It is up to everyone else's judgment as to what is appropriate or not.
Will you be seeking assurances from the rest of your caucus about any other inappropriate behaviour that...
Again, there's a constant expectation in our caucus and amongst our ministerial team around the standards that I expect. But here, of course, I will make a judgment on the individual circumstances that I'm presented with rather than hypothetical situations.
What are those differences in style? Can you just explain what information you received from her and how that was different to what you sent through?
Well, obviously you'll know that once I received information, I passed it directly on to the Leader of the Opposition and I discussed it no more widely than that.
What do you mean? So you're saying that the appearance on the AIM show this morning, is that what you were referring to?
Look, I've just simply set out the differences. I received information, I passed it on to the Leader of the Opposition. The Leader of the Opposition has received information and obviously has chosen to deal with that differently. That is her judgment. I made mine, she's made hers.
Are you aware of previous rumours about Mr Lees Galloway's behaviour before this term of government? Specifically right-wing blogs, I think, in his first 2 terms of Parliament talked about his relationship, an inappropriate relationship with the Parliamentary Service employee.
I do want to be careful. I don't want to get into a situation where I'm simply responding to rumours that circulate in a parliamentary context. What I've set out today is clear actions on an allegation that has been confirmed. And so I've acted on a confirmed allegation, and that is what I'm speaking to today. I don't want to be in a situation of discussing what is often rumours that can circulate in a parliamentary environment. Jason.
Of Andrew Falloon and now the confirmation of Ian Lees Galloway today. What do you think this means for people's perception of Parliament as a workplace? Oh,
look, I make this same mention that I did even in the context of that situation, regardless of political parties. We need to maintain a standard and a culture. It's my job to make sure that my actions, when I'm made aware of things that don't meet my standards, demonstrate the culture we expect in this place.
Specifically with men, do men in politics need to do better?
We all have a role to make sure that we maintain standards in this environment. I'm not going to start casting judgments on specific genders here. This is a job for this parliamentary precinct and environment generally. It's been a culture, an environment that for a long period of time has needed to make improvements, and I will continue to do my bit to make sure that I can lift the bar of expectation amongst the public.
Do you expect the Minister to make a statement himself? Should he be answerable to the public and to the media for his actions?
Look, it's obviously not unusual in these situations for members to put something in writing. I think it's also not an unreasonable expectation if he's making sure he's spending a bit of time with his family too.
It's about his well-being?
That is something as a matter of course, regardless of circumstance, that I will always hold a concern for that. That is part of my role, and I will make sure that I maintain that role.
Is Ian Lees Galloway a victim of circumstance here? Because the information was passed you from the Leader of the Opposition in the wake of the Andrew Falloon scandal. Would it have been treated differently?
What I'll say is regardless of the circumstances under which I have become aware of this information, my actions would have been the same. I won't speculate on the nature of the way in which I've heard. Ultimately, I would have done the same thing.
Is it an open season on any MP who's ever had an affair?
Again, I've acted on the circumstances of this case, and there are circumstances here that I think justify action. A sustained period of time, opening up to the accusation of the inappropriate use of his ministerial role in ministerial office, the fact that he is our Minister for Workplace Relations and Safety. So a series of circumstances here that have led to this decision. I don't want to get drawn into hypotheticals. I'm setting up my actions in this case.
But just to pass this out, is the...
Are you concerned that this sort of wave of scandals will depress voter turnout?
Oh, I hope not. And look, again, it is about the way that we choose to act around them. And in my view, part of that is actually saying, you know, we all need to maintain a culture, an environment that people can have some faith in. We can deal with situations like this without bringing politics into it as well. And I do think that helps with people's trust in our systems. Jackson.
Prime Minister Chris Farfoy last year intervened in an immigration process and promised to speed things up for op shop singer Jason Harrison. Why is he fit to be
And you'll recall from that circumstances, it was clear that the minister had not breached any cabinet guidelines and so on. In that intervening period, I've elevated, he's in a role now within the cabinet. Of course, he has portfolios of responsibility, and in my view, has demonstrated what is required to have these additional responsibilities. It is also important to keep in mind in this distribution, I've utilised ministers that do have some prior knowledge or some contact with those portfolios. Andrew Little, obviously his background in workplace relations and safety. Minister Farfoy has previously been an associate minister. As a Minister for Immigration, he'll deal with policy, not cases. And Carmel Sepuloni, in her role as MSD, often has interactions with the ACC system and has an operational agency, so has that experience. So that was the basis. That was the basis of these decisions.
Prime Minister,
and then I'll back to
Prime Minister, I know you don't want to set hypotheticals, but just passing this out, you consider a principle for all your ministers, any member of your government. Is it ever okay to have a sexual relationship with staff?
And look, as I have said, I deal with the circumstances that are presented to me, and that is what I've done in this case, and I've said that in previous situations as well. For me, this is about a demonstration of judgment. It's about whether I maintain confidence. I am wary about making moral judgments here. For me, this is about conduct as a minister with a particular set of ministerial expectations.
Have you received any other allegations or information about other Labour MPs in the past week that has you concerned?
No, and again, what I would also say is that we do need to keep in mind in a political environment, we often hear rumours and hearsay that is very often incorrect. And so that is, I think, something that all members of Parliament need to keep in mind in a highly politicised environment during an election year. That will often happen. We need to act cautiously. Here, we have a confirmed allegation. So, of course, that requires action.
You won't be sitting down with any of your ministers or MPs in the next few days to discuss any such allegation?
Look, again, you know, at any point where I have things that concern me, I address them and I deal with them in an appropriate way. But I don't want to be drawn into hypotheticals or indeed rumours that don't have substance.
Was there any misappropriation of funding?
No, this is a question I have directly asked. I have been advised no. But I still think the Minister has opened himself up to the question of whether or not he has inappropriately used his office to sustain a relationship. And that is not something I am comfortable with and has fed into my decision.
And when you were speaking with him, did you talk to him about the Francis report and about how that may have impacted what he was doing?
Look, ultimately my decision was based on the circumstances in front of me. I needed no further convincing of the actions I needed to take. The Francis report is an extra layer of why we need to maintain a culture within this place. Tova.
Do you recognise that people will be horrified that a beehive office has been used improperly in this way, and what does that say about the sanctity of Parliament?
Look, ultimately, I have to make sure that I'm making a decision based on circumstances that I believe warrant a minister losing my confidence. In that case, this has occurred. So I do accept that this has happened in a highly charged political environment. That doesn't change my view that over a sustained period of time, a long period of time, our Minister for Workplace Relations has not modelled behaviour that is in keeping with his office.
Given the sustained nature of that behaviour, are you going to be giving any special direction to caucus or staff? Because they must have been aware of this.
These issues are constantly a reminder to everyone about the need to maintain a set of operating principles, a set of behaviours that are in keeping with what our communities expect of us. But again, I am very clear here on the difference between, moral judgments and judgments around whether or not the minister has acted appropriately as a minister for workplace relations. Jessica.
Was this woman a junior or an intern?
Not the latter. Not the latter. It would take judgment for me to make a statement based any further, and I also don't wish to identify the individual involved here. I've shared information that I think goes as far as I need to justify and to demonstrate why I've made the decision I made. Too much information runs the risk of identifying the individual.
You say a junior member of staff, though, or a young member of staff.
So it's fair to say that at the time I'm advised that at the time the relationship commenced, the person was not in his office, but was in one of his agencies.
How would you sum up Ian Lees Galloway's ministerial career?
No, look, there have been things that will happen in this week as a result of the minister's work. We will pass pay equity legislation this week. He has made workplace reforms that will make a difference to the lives of workers. They get morning tea breaks now as a result of his work. However, I have to keep in mind that a Minister for Workplace Relations needs to maintain a standard and a culture. He's not done that in this case. He fully accepts that.
So did you ask if if this was a one-off, or if he'd ever had another relationship with staff?
In my view, that's immaterial. He's made a decision here that has led to him no longer holding this role. I was there to ask him about this situation, so it didn't come across my mind or occur to me to delve into anything other than what has led to his sacking today.
How did the staff member get to his office? Did he handpick the staff member to go from the agency to his office?
I want to be cautious here about the information that is provided that may identify, as I've said. This is someone who had worked in his office, who was not working at his office at the time that the relationship commenced. That is what I have been advised. Regardless, I consider it to have been inappropriate.
Are you going to direct any sort of investigation to make sure that taxpayer funds weren't improperly used to sustain this relationship?
So I have asked that question. I've been advised that is not the case. It wouldn't take much for us to make sure that that is indeed true. And so I have no hesitation asking Ministerial Services to look into that. Regardless, the Minister has already paid the ultimate price. If there's anything that any financial implication, then I'd have no hesitation asking for that to be dealt with as well.
You have no hesitation. Can you go as far as just confirming?
I can ask Ministerial Services to do that work, but I can ask them to do that. I will ask them to do that. But as I say, I've asked explicit, detailed questions around this, and have already been advised that that has not been the case. But no reason not to satisfy ourselves that that is true. Okay, I'll take the last few questions. Justin.
During your opening statement, you said that over the course of your conversation with him, it became clear that his position was untenable. Mm-hmm. Was that because of the length of time of the affair, or was there something that he told you?
As you can imagine, I asked a range of forensic questions, and as I received answers, it became clear to me that was an untenable situation.
It wasn't clear to you whether or not it could stay.
I had a set of allegations. At that point, it was not clear to me if they were true, or all were true, or if part were true. Over the course of the conversation, the Minister shared with me honest answers, and that's when it became clear to me that his position was untenable. I'll leave the last couple. Ben, and then I'll finish with Mikey.
Prime Minister, there's a second serious allegation about ministerial conduct today raised by Radio New Zealand, which alleges that Foreign Minister Winston Peters directed Antarctica New Zealand to give prize spots.
I'll pick those up on the tiles. I'll pick up general matters on the tiles. You'll be hearing from me again at 1:45 today, and I'm happy to pick up that question then, Ben. Mikey?
Do you think that Ian Lees Galloway should front the media and the public deserve an explanation from him?
Look, he will be providing an explanation. He will be doing that in written form. I don't consider it unreasonable that at this time that he is with his family. Okay, thanks everyone.